Alright, we are down to the last 10 entries in this season. There's still quite a few potential finishes in here, so I guess if this goes on too long, like time-wise, I might split this up into two parts, because I can see at least 5 shows here that I might still finish. Definitely one that I'm absolutely going to finish. But we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, Teogonia is up next. Don't know anything about this one, other than the key visual looked pretty ass. Fuck it, we ball.
So weirdly enough, the most interesting thing about this anime, and by interesting I mean from a critical standpoint, is how bad the sound design is. It's like I talked about how good the sound design was in Uma Musume a little while ago. This is the exact opposite of that, where it's like all of the sound effects, like the battle sound effects, are very obvious stock sound effects that you've heard a million times before. They're not particularly well balanced. Like, some of them just have this very crunchy kind of quality to them that makes them very unpleasant to listen to. Voice acting isn't particularly strong. Oh, also, they're fighting off against this demi-human group of things, like these big-ass monkeys. And the monkeys, they have, they growl and screech and stuff. But then they can also talk, but when they talk, there's this weird reverb on their voices that's not there when they're just growling or screaming. And it's so very distracting. Because I don't think they were speaking telepathically. I think they were just speaking. So, just not any effort, not nearly enough effort put into the sound design for this show. Also, it's very boring. It's so incredibly boring. Despite opening on an action scene, it's fucking boring. I was going to give it the meagerest of props of not having the enemies be CG ugliness. They were actually just 2D monkey things. It wasn't impressively animated, but it was at least animated, sort of. It wasn't particularly cool to look at. Most of the gore is obscured, and character designs are mediocre. They at least try to look different, but they don't. They're just not that good. And I really don't give a flying fuck about anything that's happening. There is potential in the haves and have-nots theme that they start developing pretty early in this, and there's at least some sort of interesting world building that they're not completely beating you over the head with and are letting you discover naturally. But man, it's boring. It's just boring.
Alright, Teogonia off the list. Up next, Kowloon Generic Romance. I think that's how it's pronounced. I have no clue, to be honest. I know it's based in Hong Kong, I think, is the setting. This is one that I also read the manga for read a little bit of the manga for and wasn't super impressed by, but apparently there are some really interesting sci-fi elements to it. So let's see if it's worth giving it another shot.
Well, I made it farther than I did in the manga, but still not enough to hold my attention, unfortunately. I got a little bit into the 3rd episode of apparently Kowloon Generic Romance. It's pronounced Kowloon, I think. At least that's how it's pronounced in the Japanese version, which it's a Hong Kong town, so I'm not sure exactly how it's supposed to be pronounced. I'm just going to go with Kowloon because that's what it sounds like. But yeah, I just was not. There were a lot of things about the show that I was interested in, and a lot of stuff that I just did not give a flying fuck about at all. Mostly the characters are the reason, because like I just don't find them interesting at all. I don't find them to be like to have the right specific like levels of quirks or interesting personality traits to make them interesting enough for a full-fledged romance series. I understand that there is romantic chemistry and tension there, and I think the chemistry is good. I just don't find the characters creating that chemistry to be very interesting. They're not personality-less, they're just a little bland. Just a little not quite interesting enough for my taste. Especially with how... Well, I can't say how quickly the romance moves because there is a sci-fi complexity to the romance, probably. Or at least a memory loss complexity to the romance of sorts. I don't know exactly how it works because this show is a sci-fi series technically, and there is some weird sci-fi stuff going on, and the main character has some kind of memory loss that apparently she was engaged to the male lead of this series at some point. Maybe. But I don't know exactly how it works because I only got a little more than 2 episodes into it. I can't tell you what made me drop it though. The fucking pharmaceutical guy, don't like him at all, and I know I'm not supposed to like him, but I don't. But what it's more about is I don't like how he interacts with the narrative. I think it's really fucking over the top and bad. He's a fucking creep who sexually assaults the main character in the 3rd episode. Like, fucking full-on tongue in front of everybody. And her boss just sort of lets him get away with that. Which, like, what the fuck? But he's just... He feels very out of place in this narrative. This fucking creepoid dude feels extremely out of place here. And so that was actually what got me to drop it. And it's not like there's nothing here to like. I think the artwork is really solid. They do draw this walled city incredibly well. The background art's really good. The set design is really good. They constantly talk about this sense of nostalgia in the show. About like how you like, and sort of like nostalgia for things that you don't even for things that you've never actually experienced necessarily. I think that's what they were getting at. And it does kind of come across in the visuals, like the design sense for the show. And the character designs are pretty solid. They're not spectacular, but they're crisp and clean and distinctive. Also, apparently this is from the author of After the Rain, which was another series I dropped that also looked very beautiful. But I think that one was by Wit Studio. I'm not sure who did this one. I think this is Bandai Namco. Or maybe it's just produced by Bandai Namco on the production committee. I don't have my phone with me to look up the studio. But anyway, it looks really solid. Although I will say sometimes the actual character designs clash with the setting a little bit, not necessarily in a compositing way, but just in like an artistic style kind of way. But the big takeaway is I just don't find these characters very interesting. And I don't find them interesting enough for me to get hyper invested in their romance. Also, apparently the first episode moves like super fast, because I went back and looked at one volume of this that I have. I only read apparently like 3 chapters of the manga, but apparently the first episode covers the entire first volume of the manga, which is insane. Maybe that's part of it, like how quickly the romance moves, or at least the perceived romance moves, I guess. I understand from a bigger structural standpoint, you want the reveal of the memory loss to happen sooner rather than later, because it's sort of the big hitching point, the sort of the crux of this whole plot. But in another sense, it's like, why not let me get to know these characters a little bit before you do the big rug pull? But who knows? I mean, I dropped the manga too, so who knows what I would have thought. Yeah. Unfortunate, but I just did not vibe enough with this show. I didn't dislike it. I don't think it's necessarily bad in any way, but it's just like not raising above my threshold for I really want to watch this. It's just sort of okay.
Alright, Kowloon, unfortunately, coming off the list, down to 8 more shows. We're nearing the end. Next is Aparida. This is like A rank party something. It's a 2-core series. One of the few 2-core series on here, actually. Something about a fantasy party. I don't know the full title. Haven't seen anybody talk about it, actually. So I'm not sure how it got 2 cores, but fuck it, we ball.
Okay, we need to put a fucking moratorium on anime where it opens with one of the characters either leaving the party because of disagreements with the other members or being kicked out of the party for being bad. Because they all fucking suck. They're all bad. They're all super fucking generic. They don't do anything different. We need to figure this shit out. Like, at the very least, skip that scene and save it for later. Because they're all the fucking same. This one is so fucking boring. It's just so boring. There's nothing interesting going on here, except maybe the fact that in this world they do live streams for like the hero parties and stuff when they do adventuring stuff and like dungeons. But it's so fucking boring. The character designs are so boring. The color palette is so boring. This is like one of the most generic anime I've ever seen. It's so nothing.
Alright, Aparida off the list. God, that sucked. Next is Classic Stars, which I believe is a male idol show. Not entirely sure, but let's find out.
Now see, this show is the flip side of why I try out everything. It's not a show that is like good, but because it didn't get any publicity I might have missed it. It is a show that is very bad and got no publicity, so I wouldn't have bothered trying to. But it takes some hard fucking swings in certain areas that just kind of leave me impressed. But I wasn't expecting it at first, because like this show opens with like a poorly timed montage set to the opening of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony Number 5. You know the one, the ba 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 ba, that one. And it's like not really well timed or edited. There's not a lot of great movement to it. Like, if this is going to be a music show, which it obviously is, you would think you would at least cut this opening scene in an interesting way in time with the music. Not even necessarily in time with the music, just in a way that sort of flows with the music, I guess. Maybe add in some interesting symbolism or something. And so I was like, this is really not interesting and boring. And then the main character goes into like a rock club. And the band that's playing plays a rock song set to the melody of Symphony Number 5. And it is corny and cheesy, and honestly, it kinda fucking slaps. It kinda rules. It's like if you've ever seen Tokyo Godfathers, you know that film, during the credits song for that one, I believe it's by the Moonriders, I think, they do something like that for Symphony Number 9, the Ode to Joy Symphony. This one is like much more of a hard rock version of it, and it kind of slaps. Like, I'm tempted to just kind of look through the soundtrack for this one to see if there's any other hard swings like this. But the actual show is fucking dog shit. The CG character models for the band playing that song sucked shit, and for some reason they kept all of their faces in shadow. I don't know why. Who cares if they're mysterious or not? And then the shot immediately after the title card is terrible, super mediocre looking. This is not a good looking show. So like, appreciate the hard swing with that song, but otherwise not notable in any way.
Okay, classic stars off the list. Next is Food for the Soul. This one is an original anime, I believe. That's a slice of life series. It's probably going to be about cooking. And I think it's from PA Works. This one got a decent amount of, like, not necessarily buzz, but it's one of those sort of dark horses of the season where a lot of people who liked it, or a lot of people who watched it really seemed to like it. So, let's see if we can pull another one out of a hat.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like I'm hitting a big old goose egg on original anime productions for this season. I got through 3.5 episodes of Food for the Soul. And it's not bad, it's just very average. It is just a very bog standard slice of life comedy series with like tinges of themes or character traits regarding like shyness and social anxiety and stuff like this. I feel like this one would hit really well for the Hitoribochi crowd. Like, if you liked that show, you would probably like this show a lot. But I also don't like Hitoribochi, so definitely it's not up my alley. I do like some aspects of the art design quite a bit. I think the backgrounds are really nice. There's a lot of interesting details, really solid color work to everything. But also the character designs are super bland and like mostly unmemorable. There's really like nothing striking about them whatsoever. So that was a bit of a disappointment as well. Wow, it's July 5th now and they're still blowing off a fuck ton of fireworks. Not sure why. I didn't expect that since it's a Saturday, but I'm going to talk through it anyway. Because there's really not a whole lot to talk about. The food part is definitely a fucking, not nearly as important to the series as the title might suggest. This is not like Yuru Camp, where the camping is like the central focus of everything. This is more like, oh, well, the premise is they form a club because they want to just fuck around and hang out in a club room. But then the school's like, no, we're going to check to make sure you're actually doing club stuff. So then they just occasionally do club stuff. And the club they pick is like a food, research, and culture club or something. And the food parts are fun. It's definitely like a wow, anime food so good. It's got that to it. Not overtly so. Like, it's not shoving it in your face, but it is still like really good anime food porn. But aside from that, there's really nothing of note here. The characters are fine, if a bit, well, I was going to say if a bit silly, but the silly is kind of the point. But they're not silly in like a really intriguing way. They're just they're a silly in a we have to write silly characters kind of way, if that makes any sense. It's just very not all that like I think the only reason I made it through 3.5 episodes was like, well, there's a lot of people I follow on Twitter who really, really like this show, and it's an original anime, so I kind of want to support original anime, but I shouldn't be thinking like that for this show. If I did, there would be no end to the mid as fuck titles that I give way too much time to. And I'm not saying like that derogatorily for this show. Well, I kind of am. But it's just fine. This would be like a light to decent 6 if I finished it. It's totally fine, just not all that interesting.
Okay, Food for the Soul coming off the list, unfortunately. Up next is Lazarus. This is the Shinichiro Watanabe show that has been getting that got a fuck ton of hype before it came out, and then it came out and everyone kinda hated it. So I don't expect my opinion to be different, but that's what this show is here for. Well, prove me wrong, Watanabe. Prove me wrong.
Man, I was at least hoping to make it past the 6-minute mark. Like, for fuck's sake. I made it 5.5 minutes into Lazarus, and somehow, every single piece of scripting and world-building detail was completely fucking stupid and nonsensical. This is fucking bad. I don't know, but it's just, this is fucking terrible sci-fi. This is near future sci-fi. It's fucking bad. Whether it's like small details of just like not caring, like, so, okay. Our main character is this prisoner who has been given a life sentence. Apparently 888 years to be exact. And someone calls him in to talk to him. And they just sit in the middle of an empty prison cafeteria and talk. Like, we know how prisoners get visitors. I don't think it's different in Japan. Also, I don't think this is in Japan. It very clearly looked like it was Times Square, so this was probably New York. Maybe. I think he had a Hispanic last name. Not that that means anything, but like, anyway. You meet behind glass because if the prisoner attacks you, that's bad. And very clearly, this guy's in here for a reason. So, like, it's a dumb little oversight like that, multiplied over and over and over again. And, like, okay. But the thing that, like, really pissed me off, though, is, like, that it's the entire thematic premise for this show is fucking stupid. So, it's about a scientist who designs a painkiller with no side effects. And basically the entire world gets hooked on it. And then he comes out and says, actually, it's a poison that's going to kill you in 3 years. First of all, not how... Oh, my light went out. Need to plug that back in. First of all, not how that works. That's not how human bodies work. They are all different. So the painkiller will affect them differently. Also, depending on how much they take, it will affect them differently. Second of all, the reason he decided to poison the human race is because he thinks like all war and murder and death and all the evils of humanity. You know the fucking drill. And then he's like, comes back on, he's like, okay, the first group of people are probably going to die in like 30 days. But I have the antidote. So if you can find me, you could prove that humanity is worth saving. What the fuck does that mean? That's fucking stupid. I don't think I even need to explain why that's fucking stupid. This show fucking sucks. Watanabe might be cooked, unfortunately. I did see some discussion when this show started airing of like, you know, his like really big hits, he wasn't the writer for those shows. That was Keiko Nobumoto, who wrote for Bebop and Shampoo and Macross 7. And she was also the scriptwriter for Tokyo Godfathers, which is somehow the second time I've mentioned Tokyo Godfathers in this video. For a completely different reason. But she passed away 2 years ago, I believe. She wrote like one episode of Space Dandy, but really didn't do anything else with it. But Space Dandy was fine. The Space Dandy is a good show. But she didn't work on Carol and Tuesday. I did not like Carol and Tuesday. And she didn't work on Lazarus. I fucking hate Lazarus from what I've seen of it. This is just so bad. It's just bad.
Holy shit, that was bad. Get this off the list. Okay. Next is Mono. This is from the creator of Yuru Camp, but I believe the staff behind it is mostly the people who made Yamano Susume. So, two of my favorite cute girls do hobbies kind of shows. Fuck it, let's jump into it. I hope I like this one.
Alright, third time's the charm for fun little slice of life travel-y kind of shows. Just finished up all of Mono. Is good. For a while, like every time I boot up like a new episode of this, for some reason I kept thinking like it's a better travel show than Zatsutabi and a better food show than Food for the Soul. And I feel like that's a pretty good general summary of it, but also it's sort of like misses out on a lot of it as well, because like the premise of it is that it's about a photography club and like the shenanigans that they get into doing photography stuff, and they do keep up with that for a while, but there is a certain point at which the photography thing is very much a tertiary idea compared to just the shenanigans of the cute girls doing cute things and the more travel-centric and food-centric stuff that makes it feel much more like something like Yuru Camp than its own thing. Which, you know, I'm not surprised that it feels like Yuru Camp, and I'm not disappointed that it feels like Yuru Camp. It's from the same author, but I guess that's just the thing you should know about this show, is that it definitely has its own unique identity that we'll get into, but it also does have, it's also extremely Utercamp coded as well. But in terms of like its distinct identity, in terms of, whereas Utercamp is like very focused on the camping idea and just goes all 100% in on that, Mono is much more of like a scattershot, generalized, cute girls do cute things show, with the backdrop of the photography stuff and the travel stuff and the trying out a bunch of food stuff. And also some supernatural stuff, which is very hit and miss. I will say, they do make some bold choices with that, because as far as I can tell, they sort of outright confirm that supernatural stuff does in fact happen in this show. Like, I'm not talking about like the ending or whatever. Like, there are two instances. There's the one instance with the ghost in the tunnel, and then there's the instance of the fake person on the bridge, where I forgot what the manga artist's name is, the one who writes the horror manga. They thought they were talking to her, but apparently they were talking to potentially a ghost this whole time. So it is just straight up a bit supernatural, which makes the final episode like a little bit more tense as a result. Again, spoilers if you haven't seen it, but the final episode ends up being like a big prank that some of the characters play on each other in sort of a horror supernatural kind of realm there. And so the fact that they set up that supernatural stuff happens in this show does sort of make it a bit like, is what's actually happening here? Is this a prank? Is this real? What's going on? Is it just a misunderstanding? So props to them for that, I guess. But also, like, some of the supernatural stuff just doesn't land, mostly because I'm just not, I think it's more of a preference thing, really, where it's like, I don't really care for, like, urban legend, supernatural stuff all that much. At least, like, what do you call it? The specific, like, Japanese urban legend type stuff, I'm not a particularly big fan of, just because I'm not familiar with it, I guess. I'm not a huge fan of urban legend stuff in general, but if it's about something I'm familiar with, I can at least vibe with it. But when it's something that's totally foreign to me, it doesn't really land. I don't think I ever mentioned it when I did it for the seasonal wrap-up show, but that was one of the things with Dandadan as well, where I'm like, if it's a very specifically like local thing that they're talking about, it just goes right over my head, and I don't particularly have an interest in it. But aside from that, well, I guess along with that, it's just sort of this big confluence of different ideas, very variety show-esque in a certain way. Just a lot of different ideas getting thrown together into this slice of life pot, which most of them are very good ideas. Some of them are just kind of okay. Some of them are just kind of bland. They're not all hits, is what I'm trying to say. So it does make it a bit more of a hit and miss kind of presentation, narrative presentation, I should say. But all the characters are super fun and vibrant. Really like the dynamic that they have. It definitely captures the high school girls fucking around kind of vibe. It definitely has that vibe to it. And also the relationships amongst the adult characters are pretty solid as well. Just a really strong cast all around. I don't have anything specific to say, really. They're just very well-rounded and nice characters that fit the specific tropes or niches that they need to fit into, and they fit them well. It's just pretty good. But really, the other big aspect of the appeal for this show is the artwork and the animation. This is definitely a show where they try to go all out in subtle ways as much as possible. Like, this is not like ambitious in like an abstract kind of sense. This is ambitious in a cinematography sense. A lot of very interesting angles, a lot of interesting quote unquote camera movements, very fun layouts that like a lot of shots where are there feel like it's like the shot is there just to make it because it's interesting. Oh God, I don't know why I'm so tired right now. Because it's interesting to draw from this angle, from whatever angle they choose. Or they really wanted to do this kind of tracking shot because it would look really cool. And like, for like 95% of the time it works out really well. So occasionally there's some jank to it where it's like, oh, you didn't quite have the stuff to make this shot work, but like the vast majority of the time it's like, wow, that's really impressive. This is definitely if you appreciate the animation of anime kind of show. If you appreciate like layouts and storyboards and character acting, you are gonna like this show because it just goes all in on that sort of stuff. This is from Studio Soye, I think, which I think is like a brand new studio or something. I heard that a lot of the staff worked on Yamano Susume over at 8-Bit. I haven't done enough digging to confirm that, but it definitely looks like Yamano Susume a lot of the time. It feels like it just feels like a spiritual successor to that in a lot of ways. That's another good sort of one sentence summary for this show. It is Yuru Camp by way of Yamano Susume. So if that hasn't sold you on it, I'm not sure what will, because there's really not a whole lot else to it. Again, it's a slice of life show, but that's sort of what the appeal is. It's the simplicity expanding out into the variety, both narratively and visually. Like it also has a lot of different art styles in it as well to make it just to add a little bit of variety to everything, which is that is what I appreciate most about this show. It is a big kind of variety show, both visually and narratively, and it's good. It's good.
Alright, Mono is complete. We're going to scroll a little bit up here. We're going to put you right under Windbreaker with a light 7. Fun times. A little bit scattershot in terms of like the quality of each narrative, but the variety was definitely appreciated. Alright, down to the last 3 shows of the season. Up next is Shirohiyo. Haven't heard anyone talk about this, and I think this was one of the last ones to end this season. I think it's an isekai, but I'm not sure, so we're about to find out.
Yeah, this one's not particularly good. Something about the character designs is just very, like, overly sweet and overly cute looking to the point where it feels, like, off. I guess. And I was actually very disappointed in something because I thought of something in my head that was way cool, where I thought the show was going to go with something, and then it didn't. So, like, the guy, it's an isekai, and the guy gets reincarnated into the body of this 5-year-old noble kid. And this kid's like a real fucking porker. He is a fat 5-year-old, which is kind of unusual, like, even in, like, nobles, I believe, because, like, the kids just want to just run around at that age. And so what I thought they were gonna do with this premise was be like, oh, he reincarnates into the body of this 5-year-old, but instead of like wanting to run around and play all day, since he's got the mind of a 30-year-old, he just sits around and does like less active activities, and that's why he gets fat. I thought that's where it was going to go, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've never seen an isekai do that before. But then it shows the scene where the kid remembers his past life memories, and he's already fat. So it's like, oh, I guess the kid's just fat. Less interesting. Yeah. Boring writing, mid animation, don't really care.
Okay, Shirohiyo off the list. Oh, almost lost the camera there for a sec. Next is Alien Stage. This is a late addition to the list. I believe it's Korean animation, actually, and it's a series of music videos. I believe there's also some webtoons comics attached, so I might read those as well based on where they're supposed to fall in this mixed media projects of sorts. So let's see if it's worth the hype.
Alright, that was pretty fun. Definitely the last few episodes were definitely where it really starts to hit for me. Just finished up all of Alien Stage. I will fully admit, this is like, whatever this is, in abstract terms, is not usually my thing. I don't know how to describe what this thing is without just throwing a giant word salad together. But the vibe of this, I guess you could call it, this particular branch of drama is not usually my thing, I guess. But I like this. If you're not familiar with what Alien Stage is, go click on the link that I'm going to leave in the description below of the watch order for everything, because there's also some webtoon comics that go along with it that you kind of also need to read for some character and plot centric stuff. So this is essentially a multimedia project. You can't, like, you could watch just the music videos by themselves, just the animations by themselves, but you would be missing out on a pretty large chunk of, like, backstory and explanation for some of the brief images that you see in these animations. So I will link a watch and read order for everything below for you to peruse at your leisure. But if you're still not convinced, Alien Stage is essentially a sci-fi singing competition, but it's in a dystopian future where humans are pets for aliens, and the humans compete in these singing competitions. The loser dies in each round, so it ends with basically just one survivor. But also there's like a human rebellion brewing underneath all of this as well. So a lot of moving parts, for something that has a grand total runtime of less than 35 minutes, I think. So, again, they're all music video sized things except for the last episode, Karma, which is like 8 minutes. So 2 music videos worth of content. But so it's a real fast watch. It's super easy to breeze through, which is one of the reasons why I buckled and put it on this list, because it's not a huge time commitment. But also, it's been getting a whole lot of buzz from, like, the anime peoples, too. So it's like... And you know what? This is, in my brain, I have to classify it as, like, an independent project. Which it is. It is an independent project, mostly run through Patreon, it looks like. So, very, very small staff. It's really not until, like, the last few episodes where the quote-unquote, where like the actual animation really kicks into high gear, and even then it's still not a lot. It is mostly panning shots and animatics is what this is. But they are very beautiful panning shots and animatics. Character designs are really fucking solid, all very distinct and very beautiful. Even the characters that look kind of similar to each other, which I'm gonna guess is there for thematic reasons. Again, but even those two, like I'm thinking of Till and Luca in particular. They are the most similar looking characters, but even then, they are very easily. It is very easy to distinguish between the two of them. Also, you would not know the names of any of these characters unless you either read the webtoons that go along with it, or you just read, or you go onto like my anime list and look at the fucking characters. That's what kind of project this is, because like the 90% of the dialogue in this series is just the songs. There are a few like just audio, like dialogue tracks here and there, especially in the last episode. But for the most part, this is just the song set to a music video. And yeah, it's good stuff. The songs are pretty solid. I'm not a big K-pop guy, so I can't really compare it to anything, but they were pretty fun to listen to. And I don't think there's really a whole lot that I would want to listen to outside of this. Maybe All In, because that's closest to my general sensibilities. I don't know if that's what the song's called, but the song that plays during All In is probably the closest to my music taste. But also the song during Karma is also really fucking good, just for how beautiful and kind of sad it is. But what's the show really about? Well, it's kind of, along with its premise, it's got some pretty, very, it's very open about its themes of, like, finding human connection in dire circumstances, I guess, and what how dire circumstances can either fortify or corrupt a person's psyche. In particular, we have like a bunch of. There's actually a little bit of Promised Neverland vibes to the setup for this, because it's sort of set up like all of the competitors in this are all raised in this like nursery-like environment that's, again, looks a lot like Promised Neverland. Also looks a lot like the facility in Heavenly Delusion. So very common sci-fi trope of orphans raised in a closed environment that is not the real environment. Although I think in the instance of Alien Stage, they very much know that this is not a real environment, I think. Which is definitely revealed more as this series goes on. And we learn more and more about what these characters actually have been thinking this whole time and how they have felt about everything around them, especially in some of the explanatory webcomics that I mentioned earlier. Mizi in particular is probably my favorite character just because of her particular brand of psychosis and how it develops over the course of the series as a result of many people that she cares about dying. Being Mizi is rough. I think I'm pronouncing her name right. Mizi. I'm not sure. I'm gonna go with Mizi. Just go with the Japanese pronunciation. Even though it's Korean. Oh well. So, and that was like the twist at the end of the twist kill at the end of the first at the end of round 1, because they don't tell you that that's going to happen until it happens. That was definitely like the big hook moment for me. But I do have to admit, from that up to like probably round 5, there's really wasn't. I was just sort of going like, yeah, this is okay, and this is okay. And then around 5 was like, okay, we got some interesting stuff happening here. Also, I completely misinterpreted something that happened in round 5. I thought Mizi actually died in that and was just her body was getting dragged away, but apparently that's where the human rebellion stuff comes in. I actually had to talk to Sha a little bit like, hey, can you explain what just happened here for me? So again, this is the kind of show where if you're not paying attention, you can very easily miss something important. So you gotta lock in, which you can definitely do for less than 35 minutes. It's very easy to do, but also there is a lot of information coming at you. So it's not poorly delivered, it's just that there is a lot of it. So you gotta lock the fuck in for this one. Yeah, so, and then, honestly, it really wasn't until, well, yeah, I'll say, round 5 was definitely a big inflect, like, oh, hey, what's going on point. And then round 6, I was like, oh, we got some high drama going on here with Ivan, and his sort of, I guess, arrogant possessiveness of sorts. It was also very interesting to see, like, with certain main characters, like, why some lose the rounds that they participate in sometimes, or why they win. Sometimes it's just because they are worse, and other times it's because something in their psyche makes them fuck up, and that's why they lose. I'm thinking of Ivan in particular for that one. That was really interesting. But then, like, just the last 3 episodes, it's just like fucking bam, 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 shit's happening constantly. So, yeah, like, final round, Ouija, I think that's how it's pronounced, and Karma, just, that run of 3 is definitely the peak of the series for me. And yeah, it was just a very gripping drama with some very fun characters to follow. It's also there's also a lot of up to your interpretation kind of stuff in this. There isn't a lot of hard, concrete explanations for what's happening. It really leaves it up to you to sort of put the pieces together, which I respect. I respect it a hell of a lot, even if I misinterpreted stuff sometimes. It is not a hand-holdy kind of series, and the fact that it is leaving me to interpret a lot of what happened, while sometimes frustrating in the sense of like, wait, I don't actually know what just happened here. With the plot-centric stuff, it's a little frustrating because it's like, wait, how did this actually happen? But in terms of like the character-centric stuff, it was really fun to just sit there and go like, well, how is she actually feeling right here? Why is she feeling this particular thing? Well, it's probably because of this thing that happened there, and so on. I know writers who use subtext and they're all cowards person until I get hit with the, oh, sometimes show don't tell kind of hit though. Sometimes it's kind of good. Alien Stage, pretty dang good. It's definitely a very, a very small team project, so you're not going to see, like, a ton of explosive animation until, I will say Karma has some of the best imagery that I've seen from any series this season, or last season, any series from, like, the past year, really. The imagery in Karma is so fucking striking and engrossing. It just really lands like a fucking hammer in some instances. And that same with some of the webcomics as well. Like in particular the last webcomic that came out, the one with Mizi and Sua. Some of the, even not just the abstract imagery, just some of the way the shots are constructed are just super impacting and cool. Alien Stage, pretty good show. Would recommend.
Alright, Alien Stage is complete. And we're going to scroll up to, where did I say? We're going to put it right above the Lupin OVA with a decent 7. I feel like if I had been following this for like the 2 years that it's been running, I would be way more invested in it, but still pretty solid as is. Alright, last one for the season. Apothecary Diaries, Season 2. One of my favorites of last year. I think it was either my second or third favorite of last year. Or somewhere up there. I've seen so many screen caps and such from this over the course of the past 6 months on Twitter. Let's fucking go.
Oh boy. Alright. That was a lot. Wow. Okay, so I just finished up the Apothecary Diaries second season, as expected. Probably the best show of the season. There's no probably about it. This beats Cinderella Grey by quite a bit, I think. Although I wasn't sure of that at first. Mostly the first core of this, it's not bad by any stretch. All this is really fucking good. It's still really good. What I'm comparing it to now is Season 1 standards, and I think that's because Season 1 was so fresh and new at the time, where it was like, this is the hot new thing, and then we got more of that, but not like much of an escalation until the back half of this season. And oh boy, was that an escalation. In some respects, I should say. But the first half isn't bad by any stretch at all. First of all, though, I just realized both of these seasons only adapt 2 light novels each. So we're only 4 light novels into the story for this, which is insane. It's insane that these must be fucking massive light novels for it to be moving this quickly. Or it's just really good at pacing out the information in those light novels, or turning like monologues into like visual information, because that's insane. I thought we would be like at least 8 volumes in at this point. Like, the usual adaptation rate, in my experience, for light novels is like 4 to 6 episodes per volume. Like, I believe Spice and Wolf is like 6 episodes per volume. For some rom-coms or some like more light series, it's usually like 4 episodes per volume. But this is just really it's just pulling everything it can out of these light novels, and the pacing is not suffering as a result. I can definitely say that much. All of it is gripping. All of it is super engrossing. The mystery, whether it's the episodic mystery stuff or the long-running mystery stuff or just the world building in general, it is all just, your eye is just glued to the screen constantly, like, oh, what's going to happen next? Oh, what does that mean? Oh, how do I figure this out? And it's a mystery series that does not shove the answer in your face most of the time, but leaves more than enough clues for you to figure out what the mystery is. Like, the mirror episode is a perfect example of that. I think it's episode 4, where it's like, they introduce the concept of mirrors at the beginning of the episode, and then there's like an episodic mystery thing in the middle, and by the end of the episode it's revealed, like, yeah, the answer was mirrors. I'm like, duh, of course it was. Why didn't I think of that? Mostly because it does a good job of distracting you from that with other information, but still leaving that as like an obvious thing to think about. So the baseline mystery parts of this are super solid. It gets just a hair confusing when we get into the very complex lineages of who was whose concubine and who gave birth to who in secret and so on and so forth. But for the most part, it does a very good job of at least repeating it enough for you to understand what's going on without it feeling like old information that you know already. But yeah, the first core of this season was very much like, alright, we've got some really fun episodic mysteries building up to slightly larger mysteries. Like, the first half of the first core was the traveling caravan and with the potential abortion drugs mixed in there. I'll be honest, I've already forgotten what the second quarter of this series was, because I watched a lot of that on Friday, and I'm recording this on a Sunday. Aside from the hunt parts, goddamn, why can't I remember? I think that one was just another series of like episodic stuff, getting us more used to the character of Shisui, who it turns out is actually Lolan, the high-ranking concubine. We'll get to her in a sec, but like, the first core of the series, I was like, this is like really solid, very fun mystery writing, very enjoyable, but like, where's like the oomph? Where are those like drops from season 1 that I remember? And I could just be remembering the final like 6 episodes of season 1, or final 7 or 8 episodes. It could be what I'm remembering. Although there were some really impressive things in the first few episodes of that too. But I was like, oh, where's the juicy stuff? And boy, did I get exactly what I asked for in the second arc of this. Oh right, I forgot, the second quarter of this season was where we delve a little bit more into the history of the previous emperor, who is, for lack of a better term, a pedophile. they really want you to know that that is what he was, and how deeply that has left a scar on the people who still work in the rear palace, the people who have survived since him, the descendants of the people who he impregnated as a result of that, so on and so forth. And it's like, it strikes a good balance between showing that this person is a human with human emotions, but also he is a monster who uses his weakness to prey on children. And just the way that fucking explodes in the second half of this season is, man, it's something. Like, whereas with season 1, it's a lot of like interlocking mystery things leading up to an explosive climax, and then like a little denouement into the end of that season, where it's almost like fun-loving, but with a little bit of darkness around it. This season is like, you get the slow interlocking mysteries building up to dread. You really get a taste of like, oh, right, this series really goes all in on how the patriarchal structure of this society is really fucking up a lot of people in some really messed up ways. And just the fallout from that, it makes it abundantly clear, like, yes, the people orchestrating the rebellion against the capital in like Shisho and Shenmei and all of them, they suck, but also they are a product of the royal family and the royal family's actions. They did not come out of nowhere. They are byproducts of this swirling morass of evil at the that sort of permeates all of this society. And it's when you start to understand like how everything got to be the way it was, it is dreadful, I guess, for lack of a better word. That was in the first, like, basically from like slightly before where Mao Mao gets kidnapped up through into the final battle, essentially, it was basically just like dread. And just like, this is very it's very sad, the state that all of these characters are in. Shisui / Lolan in particular, this the way that she sort of forced herself to become her mother's doll in order to function in her role, the role that she is given, but also how she rebels against that role, and in order to protect the things that she loves. In this instance, her, I guess, half-sister, Suirei, who comes back in this season, which was another thing that I did not notice at all, because the visuals hit it very well. Suirei comes back as disguised as a eunuch, and that's another really good instance of them laying out all of the information in front of you, but doing the best to obscure that information enough so that you don't immediately guess what's going on. Like, they go like, oh, this is how we check to make sure that everyone's a eunuch. We do like a physical check to make sure that something's there, or I guess to make sure that something isn't there, I should say. but still just went over my head, mostly because I was just so enraptured in this story. This was just an immensely compelling mystery thriller. Not like 100% of the time in that, well, actually, it was always that, but I will say that there was one aspect of the story that is starting to ruffle my feathers a little bit, and that is this sort of the will they, won't they of Mao Mao and Jinshi. Like, we definitely get them closer together. By the end of this season, Mao Mao knows that Jinshi is actually the crown prince in disguise, but we spend a whole lot of this series just like with her purposely avoiding that fact, not in a way that's like against the way the characters act in the story. In fact, it's like it is a direct result of the way the characters in this are written, because it's like the way that Mao Mao sort of legitimizes, or I guess rationalizes, trying to put that information off is just her going like, this is only going to be trouble for me. I don't want to know anything. I know nothing. I see nothing. I felt nothing when I touched his frog. So it's like, so on the one hand, it's like, yeah, that is exactly how Mao Mao would act in this situation. But also, still very frustrating that the romance is progressing so immensely slowly. I feel like Jinshi has made himself has made his position abundantly clear at this point. But you know what? They already announced another season, so who knows what'll happen next. Not sure where we'll go from here. That'll probably be another 2 volumes of the 16 volumes that are already out. But yeah, this was just it gives you a lot to sit on at the end of it all. Just the way that power works within their society, and how violence and sexual violence in particular is often used in ways against certain people, and what that sort of results from, and how I do wonder if we're going to eventually get to a point where it's like, hey, you have to knock it off with that. And like you can see the society, the royal family and the nobles, all of them just sort of slowly, very slowly learning the messages from all that, but we'll see if where that actually goes from here. Yeah, I just really loved almost everything about this story. Like, even some of the like almost insignificant stuff from the first season is like really starting to grow on me. Like Shaolin, Mao Mao's friend from the first season, where she was just like this bubbly little like one side character who was there to like spread gossip and stuff in the first season, becomes like a full-fledged character in her own right in this season, and just someone who is very fun to be around, and it makes and just is a very fun person for Mao Mao to interact with. And when you add Shisui / Lolan into the mix there, as with her being this sort of sneaking out of the concubine area in disguise as just another servant girl, and just the three of them forming this very tight-knit group of friends, and how that just sort of shatters at the end of all of this was very heartbreaking in a way. Yeah, I am going to be thinking about this show a lot, I think. And probably rewatching it too, because goddamn, it's good. And also, it looks fucking really good too. I will say, there were definitely a few shots where they didn't look bad, but they were like, they looked like strained. Does that make sense? This is, this show is like starting to show that the well-worn signs of an anime industry under collapse. There's nothing melty about it. This is still an extremely high-profile production, except for maybe like a few faces now and then. But it's showing, some of those faces like are showing signs of like a production barely getting by with the quality that it needs to. And it is an extremely high quality. The color design is so fucking phenomenal. The cinematography is very strong. I don't know if I'll walk away with as many like impacting shots as the first season. But again, I already watched the first season twice, so who knows? I keep comparing it to the first season, and even though it's like a fucking hair or two less engaging than the first season. Not even less engaging, just less good, I guess. But like, yeah, animation's still fucking solid. Some of the there's like multiple dance scenes in this that are really well choreographed and well shot, especially Lolan's, I guess, farewell dance, for lack of a better term, at the end of the season. Really well done. The character designs are fucking gorgeous. This is, I mean, if you've seen the first season, you know how this looks. It's phenomenal looking. And again, but it also, something about it shows signs of stress, I guess you could say. And apparently a bunch of the episodes in the second core, I mean, not even just the second core, but like a bunch of episodes throughout the series were entirely outsourced to an entirely different studio, which was C Station, as opposed to OLM being the main studio for this one. Well, it's OLM and Toho Animation Studios, which is like a basically brand new studio. And C Station is they did the earlier seasons of Yuru Camp before 8-Bit took over. And you know what? I couldn't tell which ones were which, so good on them for maintaining visual consistency. Yeah, this is just a phenomenal show. Soundtrack's a banger. I don't know if I mentioned it in the first season, but apparently Kevin Penkin does the soundtrack for this. He's done so much high-profile stuff lately, I'm losing track of the stuff that he worked on. But apparently there's also 2 other soundtrack composers listed here. One is sort of like just a veteran soundtrack composer who was part of the Monica collective for a while, and then the other one, I forget who he was. Soundtrack is very just striking and gripping, very fun to listen to. Yeah, my thoughts are all over the place on this, I guess. I'm gonna be stuck thinking about this one for a while, I guess. It's this one. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that for sure. Who knows what's gonna happen, but yeah, I feel very immensely satisfied after all of that. I feel completed in a sort of way, just with all the way this whole arc of the series wrapped up. Not to say that I don't want more. I absolutely want more. But I don't know why I'm trailing off there. I'm stretching this out for some reason, even though I've talked for who knows how long at this point. But yeah, this show is just really damn good.
Alright, Apothecary Diaries Season 2 is complete. And we're going to go all the way up to the top of the list here. Put it in the number 1 spot, which Uma Musume held only for a couple weeks, unfortunately. And you're getting a light 9. That was damn good. And with that, the spring season has come to a close. So looking back at this list, I believe I just I counted everything beforehand. But there are a total of 14 shows from this, or 14 anime from the spring season that I ended up completing. A lot of them were either movies or like OVAs or very short things. And that's down from 3 in the winter season, which I think I was actually a little bit harsher on shows this season than I was last season, maybe. Or maybe just more shows appealed to me this season as well, because there are more. I didn't have any favorites last season, but I had 2 this season. So who knows what exactly went on. But I guess compared to what my expected minimum was, that's 1 above my expected minimum. Although this was written before Alien Stage was on the list, so I guess with that, I don't know if I would put that in the expected minimum, but yeah, it went pretty close to dipping below the expected minimum for this season. But overall, pretty good list we got here. Some surprises, some mild disappointments. Good season. Overall, very good season. But in any case, we get to look forward to the summer season next. And there's a whole bunch of shows from the summer season. I don't think obviously not all of these are going to finish that season in the summer, but that's for us to figure out next time. I fucked up my outro. Whoops. Oh well. Bye.